Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 84 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is September 24th, a Sunday, of course. And we're running out of Sundays here in 2023. Can you believe it? We're like 3/4 of the way through this year, and we're also more than halfway through the football season. That's going to be on the agenda for our show this week, of course. Week 5 of the Effingham football season didn't go the Hearts' way. They went up to Charleston and lost a pretty important Apollo Conference game. And I know Mike has got he's got some pretty good golf results for T-Town this week that he wants to talk about. So we'll be getting to those. And of course, I changed locations. I'm recording downstairs in my house. So
Hey, did you get another haircut?
no, I did same haircut.
Oh,
But
you just looked a little shorter under the hat. I thought maybe you were
no,
working on getting closer to the flat top. I wasn't sure.
no.
And can I mention that the Bears are on, but you're so disgusted that we're recording this during the Bears game?
Yeah, I've made my decision on the Bears this year. Well, my stance on the Bears for a while is that I will be a fair weather fan and I won't feel bad about it. And the weather's not fair, so I'm not gonna sit and watch. They were down 14-0. It might be worse than that now. I mean, they weren't gonna ever beat the Chiefs, but anyway, yeah, I'm recording downstairs, and the reason I mention that is because my dogs, of course, decided to pick right now to start roughhousing with each other. So
That's all right. I don't hear them.
you don't hear that?
Nope.
Okay, that's good because I definitely hear it. So it's nice to know that my speakers or my microphone on this computer is nice and localized. So we'll talk about the Hearts. We'll talk about golf. Fall baseball season is wrapping up, so we'll touch on a little bit of that stuff too. And I wanted to, and maybe I'll just get this. Maybe I'll lead us off with this. Now, I don't go to the games, and I don't profess to follow it really closely, but I do know that Effingham's volleyball team had a really nice week this week. They had Mahomet-Seymour come in, and Mahomet is ranked in class 3A. They're the number 3 team in class 3A, and they came into Effingham and took a loss to the Hearts. That they also Effingham beat Matt Toon this week, but I think Lori Bonoff's got a pretty solid squad on her team, and I'm going to guess that come postseason time, we're going to hear some pretty good things about them. Now, you get to regionals as a school Effingham size, and it's not long before you run into some pretty good teams, but
Yep.
that's certainly a feather in their cap. So I wanted to sort of, before I forgot, and because we always lead off with football, so why not change things up a little bit and
Also, soccer. I know FBM's had a
oh
pretty
yeah,
good season, and so has T-Town.
yeah. And
T-Town's like
T-Town, they played each other,
12 and
right?
1, 10 and 1.
Yeah, and they recently played each other. I think maybe it was earlier this week when T-Town
Yeah.
won
Same
penalty kicks.
T-Town won in penalty kicks.
And yeah, I know Tyler Repking was there. I saw some video footage of that, and it went down to the wire. Yeah, both those teams are having good years, and of course, Effingham football fans, they know that their kicker Michael Sefton is also a starring member of that soccer team.
Right.
Scores a lot of goals from what I can gather, and
Yeah.
I think that's really that's his sport, right? The football is just sort of like you can kick, so we're going to get you out there, and he's obviously done a nice job with that as well. But I think soccer's his thing. So
Soccer, I think since they're now named co-coaches, I think Susie Went is the secret weapon behind the brain trust at T-Town.
Well, now I saw, and I didn't read the story yet, but I did see that Alex wrote something in the Daily News about Susie, about the soccer power couple there. So yeah, that I'll have to bust that out and give that a read at some point. But
I think Aaron had kids like how you see the World Cup when people fake injuries and the trainers come out. I think he used to have kids fake injuries, so then he'd get to talk to Susie more. I don't know. That may be just a rumor.
Is that right?
No. She works her tail off. I'm here to tell you.
Yeah,
as does trainer Troy
yeah.
over at Effingham. Two very, very valuable assets to the sports programs.
I've heard a lot of good things about Susie. I've talked to her a few times, usually just in passing when we're getting to the school to cover a ball game, and she'll be around because she's always around. I mean, that's the thing about those trainers. They have to. I mean, they got to be around, right? Like it's a long day every day for them.
Yep.
They answer the bell whenever they have to. But yeah, it's good to get a few shout outs in there. You know, we get a little focused on the things that we know the most about, and it's good to make sure we talk about some of that stuff. So that's good. I don't know. You want me to talk about this football game a little bit?
Start football. Hey, let's go to the important stuff. Let's talk golf right out the chute, man.
Do it.
Well, just a second. I got to find my information. I feel like you. I have information. Well, I know St. Anthony won a tournament Friday. I think they won the tournament down Centralia. It was one of those kind of a chopped up deal where I think some of the kids played scramble, better ball. Yeah, they won that down at Centralia. But you know, as far as the focus of the Whitey and Wills podcast, we're going to go to the Stan Adkins Trojan Fall Classic up at Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
Charleston Trojans got first with a 310. Mount Zion Braves second with a 319. And the Wooden Shoes came in a solid third with 323. Effingham was fourth, 327. Jeff's kids played well. Max Seacrest was medalist. I think he had a 72. Yeah, Max had a 72 for medalist. I talked to him a couple times. I actually gave him a ride, either to his first tee. So I probably deserve a little credit for this.
Sure, why not?
Matt Toon was fifth. St. Anthony's JV sixth. People say, "Oh, it's their JV." They finished top 2 or 3 in almost every tournament they play in.
Yeah, we've
so big shout out to the Shoes. We got third. We're playing a little better. Freshman Isaac Weber finished fifth overall and led us. And then sophomore Cohen Pennington got eighth because of a tiebreaker, I think. So they were both top 10. Cohen shot a 77. The Taylor brothers were 83, 87. One of our players got sick, came in during the coaches meeting beforehand. I thought he was going to throw up all over us. So, yeah, I was missing a kid. We had an extra we plugged in. It turned out to be a really good day. Charleston is a front nine, you know, 1 hole, 1.5 holes maybe can bite you a little bit. But other than that, pretty straightforward. But, man, you get on that back nine. You don't see too many other holes from your fairway. And you're going down 16. You got to put up with the drag strip starting to loosen up for the Friday night races. And that was really noisy. I mean, really noisy. I saw a kid, I forget where he was from. Mount Zion, maybe he was in the middle of the putt. Wow. And they lighted up. And they're, you know, why do you could hit a driver from this green? You could hit a pitching wedge from the green to the drag strip with your skills.
So forgive my lack of knowledge about the outskirts of Charleston, but are we talking Bentry or are we talking the country club here?
Oh, country club.
Okay.
So right next to the country club is the drag strip. On the back nine, it literally runs right down parallel to the part of the 16th fairway, which is a long, difficult par 5. And I mean, the boys was warming them up at about 5 o'clock on Friday, and it was noisy.
I'll bet. I mean, I've probably been on runs out that way at some point because
there's that path that runs through there.
When we were marathon training, which was like 10 years ago now, but the guy I trained with knew all the running routes out around Charleston. But I was usually, you know, you get 7, 8 miles in and then get on some of those longer training runs, 13, 14 miles, you stop being aware of your surroundings as much as you're just
worried about survival at that point, aren't you?
Yeah, that's really the case. But that's good. You know,
then we got senior night Monday night. Sullivan's coming to town, so I know everyone's already had their senior night with us, but Ethan Taylor, Hayden Jansen, Cole Onosorge, Dylan O'Brien, Tyler Bremer, Colin Burke. I've got 6 seniors this year. 3 of them, Hayden, Ethan, and Cole, have been with me all 4 years. So, you question how smart they are to hang around me for 4 years. But, um,
They've been waiting for this moment for a long time.
yeah, they're like, can't wait. And then Wednesday, you get to leave at 6 in the morning and head for Mount Vernon for the regional. So it all comes, to head Wednesday. I've got my expectations. I'm looking forward to some stuff there. We'll see what happens. But I'll take my chances. We're playing well.
Well, I guess golf's probably like any other sport, right? Like this is the time of year that if you're gonna be hitting your stride,
But you can be hitting your stride, and then I've seen teams then turn around in the regional. I know sectional at the same course 2 years ago. Hayden Jansen was actually playing for me, and St. Anthony was there as a team. And 9 holes in, it wasn't looking very good for the Bulldogs. They were off to a very slow start, and they rebounded and tied for second. They may have actually got second and ended up going to state out of it that year. Actually, Oblong won the sectional, and I think they tied with Vandalia. Then Vandalia turned around and believe the state champs. So, our sectional is very, very difficult. Whoever is there, a lot of really, really good teams, and takes a lot of work to get out. But a couple teams that used to be in our regional got moved north. Some of us were hoping to maybe get moved north. I'm not saying it's an easier path, but a lot of less potentially dominant teams in the section.
Gotcha. I guess kind of going back on what I just said, I guess it makes sense. Courses vary so much, and weather can obviously have a pretty big impact on.
Yeah, I know years where regionals have played in the rain, and the other part of the state they don't, and it's reflected in the scores. And you see scores back in the day when my daughter played. You would see Effingham host a sectional, and one year not a single kid, a girl in the sectional, because I was bored and went through and looked at it, matched or bettered their regional score in the section. So they came to what many were a much tougher course. Some of them played at Sandoval. Yeah, kind of short, and especially for girls who can play. But it really matters where you play. So it's interesting, if you see a team, they got third in their regional, so they can't get out as a team. No. Some regionals are a lot tougher than others.
So, got any other golf mentions to make before we move on?
No, I think that's all of them. It should be a good win. I think Wednesday you'll see a lot of either individual. I think you'll see some individuals have a lot of success. Girls turn around on Thursday. They play their regionals on Thursday. Somebody hosts here. I don't know if Effingham or St. Anthony is the host, maybe Effingham. So all the local girls will play here at the country club.
All right. You want to talk about the Hearts?
Yeah, I was again listening in a van with a bad radio. So,
well, you
and Sapper were kind of in, kind of out.
It was it got off to a really good start, Mike. I was about midway through the first quarter. I was thinking this is about as well as you can hope for things to go. Now again, Effingham loses 21-17, and nobody scored in the fourth quarter, so the final score was decided pretty early on in the game, all things considered. But
right.
Effingham, they won the toss and deferred like they seem to do every week.
I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people like the ball to start the second half.
And forced Charleston 3 and out. They ran the ball once and threw it, put it in the air a couple times, didn't complete anything, punted, and Effingham turns around and runs a nice little 10-play drive and scores a touchdown. And you're thinking this is about as good as you can hope for. But Charleston answered really quickly with a touchdown of their own on the following possession. You're tied 7-7. and it stays there for a while. And the sequence that really hurts is that Effingham with 2:23 left, they punt away. And Charleston, or no, that's not how that went. Charleston got the ball at the 41-yard line with 2:23 to go. Okay. And
in the half.
Yeah, in the first half.
Yeah.
Sorry, just got a little fuzzy there trying to read my scribbles here. And you're thinking, 2:23 left. I mean, that's a little bit of time, but you could, it's not that much time, right?
Right.
Unless they run it 53 yards down the sideline for a touchdown, and they've scored with, in under a minute. And that's a tough one, because you could live with taking a 7-7 tie into halftime and then, getting the ball first in the second half.
Right.
But I will give Effingham credit. They got the ball with 1:48 to go and got close enough for Sefton to kick a 30-yard field goal right at the end of the half. Okay. So you're 14-10 at halftime, and you come out in the second half, get the ball, and immediately run a 65-yard drive to go back ahead, 17-14.
Right.
The problem is,
again, you're thinking, okay, Effingham a lot of times comes out of half, making some adjustments. And I listened to you guys on that drive, and it sounded very methodical. They were doing what they wanted, a lot of runs, 6, 7, 8-yard runs. And yeah.
The problem is, okay, you run that nice drive to open the second half, you open the lead back up, you force Charleston to punt. Okay. If Charleston has to punt from its own 30, and you get the ball back. Okay. You get the ball back, you got a chance to take a 2-score lead.
Yeah, 17-14, you got the ball.
But you fumble. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was a quarterback running back exchange. We were talking before we started recording. It's hard to know exactly what goes wrong on a thing like that because you don't know what was supposed to happen. But they lose it, and Charleston turns around, and with only needing to go 42 yards, they score. They go ahead, and that's it.
I know at that point you're down, but you're thinking we've moved the ball the last couple possessions, albeit take out the fumble, that short drive. But then it kept happening.
Yeah. Lost another fumble. Charleston ran a pretty long drive that could have potentially put the game away, not put the game away, but put them in pretty controlling position. It went through the end of the third quarter, 4 minutes into the fourth quarter. You do force a punt, you get the ball back, but then you immediately fumble again. Okay. Immediately fumble again. Give Charleston the ball at your 27. Now, Charleston doesn't score. To your credit, you keep them from scoring. But you get the ball back another time. Can't do anything really with that possession. Can't move the ball too far. You force another punt. But at that point, time's just not in your favor. Effingham got that.
Right.
Hey, no, stop. See, I knew this was going to happen sooner or later. 250.
I didn't even hear your dogs, man.
Get 250 to go. You get the ball back, and okay. Last time that's going to happen. 250 to go. You get the ball back, and you move it a little bit. You do move it a little bit. You get a couple of first downs, but you're in a position where you got to throw sooner or later. And Charleston knows it, and they pick you off, and that effectively ends the ball game. So that's kind of a rundown of how it went, because I don't think I always do a good job when we're recapping these games of telling you sort of how they went. But the big picture stuff is that, like, Weldon Dunston ran the ball well again, got up over 100 yards. He ran 30 times plus again. In fact, 30 times for 120 yards. He scored a touchdown. Gage Gillum, the quarterback, ran 14 times, 76 yards and a touchdown. That's all good. Effingham ran the ball pretty well, but they don't throw much, and they're just not getting a lot of yardage in the passing game. And I will say that Gage threw probably the best ball I've seen him throw all season, really early on. Completed a 25-yarder over the middle, kind of a sidearm sling of the ball, and he threw it through some traffic and put it right where he needed to. Good throws I've seen him make all year, but at the end of the day, they just can't get a lot going in that passing game. And defensively, I thought that Charleston's quarterback, the Bonstetter kid, who's a junior, I thought he played pretty well. Looking at the statistics coming into it, they hadn't really done a lot in the air. They had run the ball a lot and just passed enough to kind of keep it balanced. But Effingham got some pressure on the kid, and he was always able to evade the pressure and get the ball out right when he needed to before he ever took the sack. I don't know that they ever sacked him. They got a hand on him once or twice. They pressured him some, but he made the throws and got it out when he needed to. And he was always just a half step ahead of the Effingham defense. I thought they did a great job stopping the run up front. But couldn't quite get to the quarterback. And there were a couple times where they were a half second away from making some big plays in the backfield that could, and in a 4-point game, any one of those could change the game, right? But it wasn't to be. And Charleston is a lot better than they have been. Okay, I mean,
Right.
They looked a lot more competent than they have been in quite some time. So it's not a bad loss for Effingham, but just in terms of, what their skill level is and what Charleston's skill level is, it's not a bad loss, except for the fact that now you're 2-3, and Taylorville's coming in for homecoming next week, and Taylorville's a team that if you play well, you got a chance to beat them. But then, you're still in a position where you, at a minimum, even if you win that Taylorville game, you still got to win at least one against Mahomet and Mount Zion, and that's a tall task. It's just not a great position to be in, and we've beat this horse to death, I think, in talking about the hard schedule. But it is what it is. The teams that they have to play down the stretch are really good, and so you needed this Charleston win to not put yourself with your back against the wall against the kind of competition that they're going to face the next.
Well, yeah, you still got to face Mahomet and Mount Zion, and
Right.
You have, in essence, if you're going to make the playoffs, you got to beat one of those.
Right.
I mean, mathematically, you're going to have to beat one of those.
Yeah, I mean,
you wanted to stay out of that situation.
Yeah, and I don't even know, does 5 wins get you in or not? But that's not a conversation we can really even intelligently have yet. But you're gonna have to get to 5, and the only way to get to 5 is to beat one of those. And I'm not saying Effingham can't. Okay, I'm just saying you don't want to be in a position where you have to, right? That's all
exactly right.
And I think that's just, I mean, there's no other way to look at it. But it doesn't matter, because now we're there. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to be there, but you're there. And so
now it's a reality.
Yeah. So, but I mean, none of that. Well, I shouldn't say none of it matters, but you got to beat Taylorville this week. I mean, the stakes don't get any lower, because if you lose to Taylorville, you're 2-4, and then you got to win out against Mahomet, Mount Zion, and Centralia. Centralia seems to be, they're not. Centralia seems to be having a tough year, but it's you're another loss away from having to win those 2 games, and that's an awful lot to ask of any team. So, Wade Busher had another interception. I want to give him a shout out. He has got 3 this year, I think, and has done a nice job in that secondary for Effingham. And there was some pretty good individual efforts in pass coverage Friday night. I thought they didn't get. I wouldn't say Charleston was throwing the ball around like maybe Mater Dei or Mount Carmel were able to at times. They weren't able to just sort of pick out that guy that they liked and just continue to hit him. But I will say that Charleston's got some very talented athletic receivers that make them difficult to deal with, and they run the ball well enough. They didn't get much done in the second half against Effingham, but they again, I want to make it clear to everybody that like losing to Charleston this year is not like losing to Charleston in any of the last, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, but you had to have it, didn't get it. Now it's do or die time pretty much the rest of the year. Playoffs start in week 6, more or less.
Yeah, and they begin for them then. No, you're exactly right. And I know, Coach Effner said we have to stay out of this situation. The modern day, not getting the Mount Carmel win hurt. That would have been a huge one.
Right.
That'd have been a huge one.
Especially since it was there for you,
right. You had your opportunity.
Yeah.
I think the modern day surprised people. Mattoon, they were sluggish for a while. But yeah, this was your only one that, was your chances were better of getting to 5-4 with a win at Charleston, obviously, because you've got Mount Zion, you got Mahomet, you got Taylorville, you got Centralia. So you got 4 opponents there. If you had to beat 2 of the 4, I'd have took my chances. Got to beat 3 of the 4, going to be tough. But they've had years where they've done it, where they've gone to, they've gone to Mount Zion and got a win. So it's happened.
Yeah,
it's happened. And this group sounds like when people kind of write them off, they kind of bounce back a little bit. So, maybe they'll have a chip on their shoulder this week.
Yeah. So the way that goes is that Taylorville comes in.
Comes here for homecoming.
Next week. And then Mahomet comes in the following week.
Right.
And then you go to
Mount Zion and then go to Centralia.
Yeah.
Oh, Centralia's here, isn't it? I don't remember.
I think we're getting that wrong because Centralia is definitely a road game.
Okay.
I was looking at the IHSA football. IHSA's put out, like, they've got just a football website now instead of making you go to IHSA and search for football and then search for conferences like they.
Right.
But it doesn't seem to designate home and away games. So Effingham, they've got the Taylorville's here. Then you go to Mahomet. Then Mount Zion's here, and then Centralia's. Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I usually know when that Mount Zion road game is.
Because you look forward to that.
I do.
Homecoming. I know Coach Hefner's like any coach, whether you're baseball or basketball. The homecoming game you never know how your kids are going to respond. There's so much stuff going on. Sometimes kids get really distracted. Sometimes they play at their best. You don't know.
Yeah, Greg tried to broach that homecoming distraction conversation with Brett a little bit in the post-game interview, and Brett was just like, well, we got too much football stuff to worry about. Like, I can't even.
I agree 100%.
I can't even think about the homecoming distraction because right now we've got so many football things that I want us to take care of that, like, we just got to be solely focused on that. So, but I mean, he can say that. High school kids they're famously less able to focus sometimes than us adults are.
True.
So,
yeah.
Taylorville did get thumped pretty good by Mahomet this week. 48-0 was the final there. So that kind of tells you that while Taylorville got off to a good start, they're not probably in that same caliber as Mahomet and Mount Zion are. Possibly. That's not to say that like we're taking anything for granted, but they've lost a couple games in a row. Mount Zion beat them 28-6. Mahomet beat them 48-0. So they've lost a couple straight. And their wins were over Olney, Robinson, and Columbia. And Columbia is 0-5. Okay. So it kind of, in fact, Olney, Robinson, and Columbia combined records are 1-14. So it's not like, it's not like Taylorville was making they were making their hay while the sun was shining, but Effingham is probably going to be a better team than those three that they're
Yeah.
facing. But you can't take anything for granted, and
No, you're exactly right. You can't. So it'll be interesting. Whitey, while you were talking there, I peeked at a bear score. Are you recording this?
no, I don't care.
Good.
Tell me what the score is. Yeah.
31-0.
Yeah, that's about right. They're I thought maybe 31 was the number of times that the Fox cameras have shown Taylor Swift in the
No, I watched for a little bit with Morgan because now she's like, "Hey, what does that mean? They declined a penalty?" So I have to like explain stuff to her, and I felt like I should have called my dad to come over and explain stuff to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention one other thing from we were at Charleston this week, of course, and they did a nice little thing between the first and second quarters. They had a recognition for Greg Sapp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Greg hasn't, I don't want to throw any water on it, and I don't know what Greg's plans are, but he hasn't, while he's not doing sports full time anymore, he's never really put a cap on the football like when he will or won't.
No, you're right. I know it's hard to believe, but I think he really enjoys the football more than the basketball.
Well,
And I think because it's once a week
yeah,
is my guess.
Basketball's a grind, and
Yes, it is.
The man doesn't sleep very much if you don't.
No, well, especially when you take the onus to do games all the time. See, I think Matt Robinson on nights when there's one game sometimes will say, "Hey, Whitey, why didn't the Whitey and Will show go do this
one?" Yeah. But they were kind of operating on the impression that was the last time that Greg would be there in Charleston, and it may end up being that way. But
did they laud him with gifts? He get like
there were no gifts. There wasn't like it wasn't like some retirement tour where they give him a rocking chair or something like that. But
there's like Jimmy John's coupons or something.
But it was a nice thing. It was a nice thing, and
well deserved.
They always treat us well in Charleston. It's there's a lot of good guys up in the press box there. So that was.
I lived there for biggest part of 4 years, and I delivered Domino's one year, maybe to every resident in Charleston. It was possible. My junior year, we decided we needed cash for spring break, so a couple of us became Domino's guys, and it was a good cash gig.
Yeah, I mean, donating blood was off the table, I guess.
Back then they didn't do that. You just when they had blood drives at the union, you'd go there because usually got a free lunch of ham salad sandwich. Then you could go to Marty's and get a cheap buzz on a pitcher of beer. So I know that's not how you're supposed to do it. Back in the day, we didn't know these things. Nobody told us.
It's just the thing with Effingham, if I could just put a bow on it, was that like Coach Hefner talks a lot about not making winning plays or making losing plays.
Losing plays. Same thing. Same thing.
And I think when he said that during some of the earlier games this year, he was talking more about penalties, stuff like that. And then,
he brought that up during the Mount Carmel game.
But then it's Effingham didn't have a lot of I wouldn't call backbreaking. They didn't have any backbreaking penalties in that game Friday night. I wouldn't say they had a handful, but it wasn't a problem. But then it turns into turnovers, which just haven't really been a huge issue. Putting the ball on the ground hasn't been a big problem for them this year. So it's just, unfortunately, you get through, you clean up one part of it, and then something else goes wrong, and that's,
you're like the little boy with his finger in the dike. You only got so many fingers.
Yeah, you're playing whack-a-mole, and that's.
Yep.
I hope that they can get it figured out, because I always want the best for the team. We want to see them win. Obviously, it's more fun to call a win. You want your hometown fans to be happy, and you want the kids to succeed and have those good memories. And let's just hope that the last 4 weeks of the season bring them that. But I think we can call it a week on the football. We'll talk about the Taylorville game next week. baseball, I didn't get to broadcast this one, but St. Anthony, after winning,
T-Town had a heck of a game Friday, didn't he?
yeah, St. Anthony had been 18-0 going into a game with T-Town Friday night, and Shoes got a 4-3 win there. I think T-Town, the only teams they've lost to this fall have been St. Anthony, and they lost one to North Clay.
Once to North Clay, yeah.
Yeah,
I ran into Coach Fleener Saturday night.
yeah.
He was having date night in Menards also. I'm sure he was so happy about his win, he was buying a new toilet seat. Hey, well, that's a celebration, the Fleener house.
That's what
Coach was concerned. He didn't know if he needed round or oval. I don't think his wife would let him sit down on it on the floor to see, so he chose one. But yeah, he said they played well, and St. Anthony's 2A, correct?
Are they?
I think they are. Maybe not. If they're 1A, he was glad they're 1A. Or if they're 2A, he was wishing they were 1A. He said they're really, really good. Oh, yeah, I guess they're 2A. So in baseball. So
okay.
He said it was a really, really good ball game and two good teams going at each other. But I know he is very complimentary of Coach Craig's group. Tony played for him, but he is very complimentary of that team. And they play again when? Friday?
Saturday? I don't know. They played 2 Fridays in a row because St. Anthony beat them 10-4 last week.
They got one more. The last game of the year is the last one, and however many they play. I mean, because T-Town obviously won't be in the conference tournament.
I've got that listed as Thursday the 28th.
Okay, so it's this Thursday night. Yeah, but Justin said, he said good ball games this week. Said I thought they had a good win against South Central, and then a good win there. So
yeah,
and Justin's got some young kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I say young, well, a junior here or there, maybe a couple sophomores kind of doing some nice things for him. So,
well, for T-Town and the way they generally just stack classes, I mean, having more than a couple of juniors, contributing it's kind of a young year for them because that's something they have that a lot of schools don't, is that kids get in the program and they stay in it. At least that's my impression of it. And I don't think I'm off base to say that, but they don't, I think at some schools, like you go out for high school baseball your freshman, sophomore years, and there's not a lot of varsity playing time, and JV games are getting harder and harder to come by around here anymore. And so you're not playing much ball and you just decide, this sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. And so then you never get to have any of that glory. But I don't feel like it's not quite the same way there. The kids stick it out. And then, and they still, and he finds ways to make them better and make them ready for varsity ball by the time they are juniors and seniors. And they just,
I agree. And I was teasing him because I think they beat South Central 5-2 or something. And former golfers had 7 hits and 5 RBIs. And I said, hey, you might want to think about getting me as your hitting coach.
Yeah.
It's good to see. I follow those kids. At T-Town, a lot of times kids will play golf as a freshman or a sophomore, just because not a lot of opportunity to get innings in the fall since the fresh soft schedule is in the spring. So, we've had some kids, play for us a year or two and then move over. So
T-Town had a real good week this week because they beat Altamont on Thursday. They beat
Altamont, beat South Central, beat St. Anthony.
Yeah, on Wednesday that was.
Yeah.
And St. Anthony, meanwhile, they've got a big week coming up because now they go to Odin tomorrow. I think they'll probably get a win there. I'm just gonna say that's gonna go well for them. But then they got Altamont coming in on Tuesday. And again, that's the last conference game for both of them. And by my count, neither one of them has lost in the NTC yet. So that will determine the 1 and 2 seeds in the NTC and also the regular season champion. And then of course, the tournament will be the following week.
Yeah.
So, they're coming down the stretch, and then of course St. Anthony's got T-Town coming in for one more. After one, how many? Is it's gonna be like four or five times they play this fall? I can't.
I think it's the fourth. I'm not sure.
Four, I think, because they played in the Wooden Bat, and then they played the last 2 Fridays, and they're going to play again this week.
Well, T-Town's looking to make it a 50-50 fall, so we'll see.
Yeah, and not to like try and handicap things or make excuses for anybody, but obviously St. Anthony's focus for the week is going to be on winning that
getting
game.
ready for conference the following week.
Winning that game Tuesday and getting ready for the next week. So
yeah, they'll be lining up their rotation. So
yep.
We'll see. And Coach and I were talking. He said, they're having a really good fall, and Ryan Schmidt's playing golf. That's a big bat, not in their lineup. Because
he was.
And as Justin said, he hits the ball really, really hard.
He's got a lot. He can get a lot of leverage on it. He's got those.
Gotten bigger than he was last year, and he had a good summer playing basketball. So I give him grief on the golf course every time we see him. So
T-Town's also aside from that game with St. Anthony, they've got Dieterich coming in tomorrow. We're gonna have that one. We're gonna have the Monday and Tuesday games on the radio. The T-Town games. So kind of it's been a challenging fall for Dieterich in some ways, but they've won half dozen ball games. They've already played.
They're getting their numbers back, aren't they? Colton getting their numbers back up.
It's better than it was, yeah, for sure, because they had
2 years ago they had a manager playing.
Yeah, that was it, and that was partially necessitated by a couple of kids getting hurt. But yeah,
sure, I understand, but still, you like the luxury of having more than 11 kids on your
team. Yeah, you need it. But that's what I'm talking about, and I'm not. Listen, this is not a Dieterich specific comment. I mean, I live in Neoga. I know that our program numbers are. It's not like it was even when I was in high school 20 years ago. But a lot of schools that size, it's just. Again, it's hard to play. It's hard to play a fresh sophomore JV schedule. It's hard to make that happen. It's hard to find playing time for all those guys. But
hard to find officials.
Yeah, that's also true. It's so more and more you just see kids decide too young, in my opinion, that it's not for them. And this is,
right. No, you're exactly right. And you're getting kids. Or, you have the JFL effect where kids play JFL. They don't like the contact. Maybe they're, physically haven't started growing yet. And some kid that's shaving in 7th grade pummels them. And they're like, yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah. I mean, we always,
and,
I remember running into that a lot playing junior high basketball. Like, for some reason, those Stu Strauss kids, when we were in school, like, they got to junior high, they got to 7th grade, and like those boys they had already become men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
And most of them were the same size by the time they graduated high school.
They're 5'10" in 7th grade playing center, and now they're a guard.
Yeah, they just beat the living shit out of us in 7th and 8th grade, and then by high school it was pretty good competition. But
it leveled the playing field, and I think that affects football. I was kind of shocked. I was talking to Matt Toon's golf coach, and when he found out we had 31 kids on the golf team, he jokes, he goes, "You've almost got more kids than we got on our varsity football team."
Yeah, I mean, and that's something I've noticed across the board too, is that
well, didn't Brett allude to that their numbers were down this year?
Yeah, he talked about it. I mean, they've still got a pretty good number of kids out, but I don't think it's quite where it once was. And again, the schools, like, they just can't get as many lower level games as they used to be able to too. So
that's a big problem, because there's your development.
Right. Yep. Teaching, they got to learn how to play somewhere. You really don't want varsity football players learning how to play football on the varsity field, but or learning how to play high school football at least. And unfortunately, that's kind of more and more where you have gotten to be. But
yeah,
I think we've probably had this. We've had this conversation before, and we'll probably have it again. Right. It's just it's where it's going. So I don't know. I think that's about all I came here.
I couldn't find anybody to take Colorado in the 21 points they were given. I was trying. That one, I mean, I think everybody and their brother saw that coming. Now I know Colorado was missing the Henry kid, who's until the injury probably was going to be a legitimate Heisman candidate.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think he was going to make up 36 points in that game.
No, that's now of course what I've seen the conversation shift to is, well, they were a bad team last year. You expect them to just, turn around over.
Well, no. That can't be the commentary because they were going to beat the world.
Yeah, and again,
I don't think that's necessarily the commentary coming out of Coach Sanders. I mean, he's a very confident individual, but he's never said things like that. But I think it's, they got USC this week at home. So if USC goes in there and beats them like many people think they will, are there a lot less passes being given out on the sidelines like there was for that third game of the year? Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about this last week, but obviously his job one, I think, is just bringing attention to the program, and he's doing that. I think that some people, or a lot of people, are like kind of buying into that a little too much, like they're being ridiculous about it. But whatever, it's college football. People are ridiculous about college football.
No, it is. I mean, and it's shined a light on the game. We're looking at a school we haven't been talking about since Cordell Stewart was a quarterback. That's how long ago that's been.
Yep.
And it's the tired narrative about Saban and Harbaugh and Ohio State. And did you see Coach Day go off on his postgame interview yesterday?
I thought that was so
cow.
stupid.
It was. It really was.
I mean, listen, every coach's job, as much as anything, is to get the boys fired up. So before the game, like if you want to, like I know that what was it? Well, the Oregon coach was using some of the Deion Sanders stuff, some of the media circus stuff to get his kids fired up, and people were like, well, that's not fair, and like, who cares?
In a post game, a lot of things are said. I'm not going to say as a high school coach, maybe as a JV coach, maybe I didn't make up things sometimes to get my kids fired up. It happens. However, the Oregon coach really didn't go off after the game.
No. Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like,
that's the thing about Ohio State's coach. I was like, are you kidding?
Football's an emotional game, and you got to get the boys fired up. But yeah, I thought that spending any energy talking about Lou Holtz after you just won a huge game, in that fashion, hey, stop. I mean, first of all, Lou Holtz is like 100 years old. Nobody's cared what Lou Holtz has said about anything for literally decades.
I mean, that's like coming out and saying that the costume or the mascot head put on by Coach Corso that pissed their team off.
But I saw a quote from a coach yelling at Lee Corso this week too, and it's like,
come on.
Let's not take these things quite so personally. Like, these guys, they're in the media. Their job is to talk and to say things in a bombastic way to get people to pay attention to them. And like, again, use it to fire up the boys. But when it's over with, like, let it go, because you just look like a jackass after you just won a huge game.
Did you see? I saw pictures of. I saw it on Twitter this morning, and I don't know who the source was, but they were showing pictures. It said on the last two plays of the game, Notre Dame only had
10 guys on the field. Yeah,
twice.
Well, and listen, and the Coach Freeman acknowledged that in the postgame presser. Said after the first play, which was an incomplete pass, he knew they only had 10 on, but they didn't want to run another guy on because they were afraid that they'd get penalized for illegal substitution or something. My thing is,
question: did they have a timeout? Did they have a timeout left?
No, but I don't think they did. But gosh dang it!
Wasn't third down a pass play? And the clock was stopped. Yeah, there wasn't. The clock was stopped. So you go to the official and say, "Hey, we've only got 10 on the field."
Hey, you know what? Like, you're on the 1 yard line. Who cares if you take a penalty? Like, it's half the distance from the 1 yard line. Like, get 11 guys on the field.
Well, no, weren't they on were they on the 3 yard line? Or
it was the one. It was the one.
Okay.
because there was a play where you thought that Ohio State had scored and they ruled him down short. If I'm remembering right, I watched
I don't remember.
very.
I was
I only
watching
watched
parts
the
of
end
it.
of the game because I was too busy watching the really fun game from last night, which was the Reds and the Pirates. Okay.
So you're worried about the Reds winning?
No, it's fun because the Reds were ahead 9-0 and the Pirates ended up beating them.
Really?
So 9-0 or 9-1.
Wait a minute, though. That's the not very good Pirates per David Ross.
Yeah, and he's right. Maybe just don't say it,
Again, don't.
Yeah, but yeah, and also Eastern won a really exciting
Yeah.
game.
What are they, 3-1?
Yeah, 3-1, and they scored 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to win.
Good for them.
They had the game was essentially decided by a 56-yard field goal, which is the second longest in school history. But more importantly for them, just to be 3-1. I mean, it's been bad for a while. Okay. And
I agree. I saw a homecoming game where somebody kicked a long field goal to win. I won't say they beat Youngstown years ago. We were there for homecoming.
Yeah.
Some friends and I.
Yeah, it's and I think they're, from my understanding is they're doing a lot of good stuff game day wise to make it fun for people to come attend the games, because that's always been an issue.
They still allow tailgating, didn't they? Because they tried to shut it down when I was a student.
No, there's tailgating. At least
there was a conscious effort to shut tailgating down when I was a student because students were staying outside, not going into the game.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case. And students don't have to pay to get in either. They show their Panther card.
We had to pay back then. I think it was, but it was $1.
Yeah, no, it's free for the students to get in, so there's really no reason for them not to, other than just general apathy. But you know how you deal with apathy is you put a winning team out there, because when Jimmy Garoppolo was slinging touchdown passes and taking them 3-4 rounds into the playoffs, there were a lot of people at those games. So that's y'all win first, and then do the other stuff.
Yep.
All right,
Whitey, we're banging on an hour. This could be 2 shows in a row under an hour.
Actually, it'd be 3 shows in a row under an hour if we get it done.
That's right, it would be.
Yeah. So, all right. Final plea: if you're still watching and you like us, and if you haven't subscribed, then like us just a little bit more, okay? And follow us on Facebook, all that good stuff. And feel free to comment. Also, you got, because we never know where a show idea or
as soon as
might come from.
Football's over, I'm getting Aaron Britton back on as a guest.
Yep. People seem to love the basketball content most of all.
Yeah, he's going to give us a little preseason talk. And
yep, I'm looking forward to it.
I haven't been on his website yet to check out all the transfers, because I'm always interested to see that, because Lincoln Way East lost their big kid.
Well,
big 6'9" kid transferred.
Not something that happens around here too much, although Effingham girls do have a transfer come in. That's going to be a very important part of their program, but by and large, not a storyline we have to worry about too much. And I'm not to make any sweeping statements about it, but I'm kind of glad we don't have to think about it either. So fair enough.
That'll work, brother.
All right, Mike, we'll talk to you next week.
See you, bud.
Later.